The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alaina G. Levine. It is my distinct pleasure today to talk to you today about how you can get a job. I'm really excited about this whole idea of, even though you might think this is the last minute and you're concerned, oh, I don't have a job, I'm about to graduate, I want to infuse in you today, sorry, a little technical difficulties, I want to infuse in you today that there is a lot of excitement that you are to have, there's a lot of opportunities that you can take advantage of, and even if you have waited until the quote-unquote last minute, it is never too late to begin to put together a thoughtful and strategic plan to get you the type of job that you want. So we're going to actually go through 10 steps, and hint, hint, there's actually more than 10 steps. Just because I like you guys, you're a great audience, I've actually included an 11th step as well as a number of mini steps in the middle. But we're going to help you get a job. So there are just a couple of housekeeping notes. If you are having trouble hearing me, simply just log out and log back in, and I will speak loudly, and you can always tell me if you're not hearing me. I have a central area that just tells me whether or not you can actually hear me or not. So you can actually just write, I can't hear you. If that's a problem, I will do what I can to assess that and to fix it. There's also a questions console, which several of you have already figured out what to do with. Add the questions, and at the end and throughout the time, I will be answering them as we go about our day. And then finally, if you are having trouble seeing the screen, also you can just log out and then log back in. And all of this will be available via the AGU Career Center website. We're going to have a recording of this, and then we're also going to put together a companion article that will also address any questions that I might not have a chance to answer for you today. So, I'm about to graduate. What the heck do I do now? Let's get started. Here's our goals for today. Really simple. Get you a freaking job, okay? That's the goal for today. I'm going to help you get a freaking job. Okay, number one, do not panic. Don't panic, folks. You have so many skills that are coveted, literally treasured by many, 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 many industries. And when I say the word industry, and I put industry here in quotes, I don't just mean academia. I don't just mean a specific sector like oil and gas or geophysics or seismology or anything like that. I mean multiple sectors, multiple types of ecosystems, the nonprofit world, working for a government agency, a government lab, working for a startup, working for other types of industries, and we're going to give you some examples of that in a moment. But the thing that I want you to be aware of is, and this is what happened to me when I was graduating, my degree was in math, and I started to panic. I'm thinking, well, I don't see any jobs that say math requirement, expertise needed in topology and how a donut is, formulated, how you can create, how the formula of a donut affects the problem solving of the particular job that I was looking to apply for. In other words, there wasn't specific, I didn't see a one-to-one match of the types of skills that I had developed and honed as a math major in the job ads that I was looking at. And that was a problem for me because I'm trying to find a job. So the key thing that I needed to remember, and this is what I learned from years of self-assessment and from looking back, is that oftentimes there will be opportunities. In fact, most of the time there are going to be opportunities for jobs, for positions, for you to use certain skills, but they're going to call, the other ecosystem, the industry, the company, the startup, the nonprofit, the government agency, whatever, they are going to call that skill a different word. So they're going to use different vocabulary, different language to refer to your specific skills and problem-solving abilities. And in networking, and that's going to be one of the steps we're going to be talking about in just a moment, in networking, you will be able to actually learn what that vocabulary is. So the key thing I wanted you to point out to you right now is that you are desired. You are very desirable because scientists, STEM professionals are the ultimate problem solvers, and you actually have gotten an incredible amount of very specific skills. And I'm not just talking about hokey-pokey skills. I mean like real hard skills that are absolutely applicable to many, many different industries. And the other thing that you have that will help you to not panic, whether you're graduating tomorrow, today, yesterday, or 3 weeks ago, is that this is a problem. Finding a job and developing a career, crafting a career, is a problem. And here I put it in quotes too. It is a problem, and guess what? You, as a STEM professional, as a geoscientist, or whatever area you happen to be in, you are the ultimate problem solvers because you know how to solve a problem from the ground up. From the ground up, you know how to look at problems holistically and granulistically. Many of you have heard me talk about how talented you are in problem solving. And since no matter what job I hire you to do, if I'm hiring you to be a custodian, if I'm hiring you to be a salesperson, if I'm hiring you to be a scientist or president, no matter what job I'm hiring you to do, I'm hiring you to solve problems. So, you're the ultimate problem solver because you have the scientist's expertise and its experience in solving scientific problems. And since you are looking at jobs where you will be solving problems, if you can communicate to those industries, to those other areas, to those other areas that you can solve their problems, they will be appreciative. And I'm going to talk more about that shortly. But what I also wanted to point out is the problem of finding a job, or the challenge of finding a job, is something that you can solve too. See, somebody who doesn't have this extensive amount of problem-solving ability might look at this as a crisis. And I don't want you to see it as a crisis. I want you to look at it as a scientific problem. It's a problem that you can solve. We're just going to show you how you can use the tools that you have now to create the opportunities for yourself, and whether those opportunities are jobs that already exist or jobs that you might have to create yourself, we'll be investigating that. And what I also wanted to point out to you, you're going to hear me talk about this a lot, and those of you who have heard me talk before have heard me emphasize over and over and over again about the importance of being entrepreneurial. You have to be entrepreneurial in your career search, in your job search, and in the way you do your job, whatever job you happen to be. In other words, where others see problems, where they're stymied, where they are stopped, they can't focus, they can't figure out how to get past this border, this barrier, this wall, you approach that with a solution. You approach that with solutions, you're the one who's going to get hired. And so that's why, again, this problem-solving ability that you have is a treasured and a coveted skill set that will actually open doors for you quite a bit. Finally, for step one, I don't want you to panic. Just because you don't land your dream job or the job in your desired career field right now does not mean it's unattainable. In fact, it could be attainable in 5 years, or in 2 years, or in 2 months, or in 1 month. It just depends on a lot of different forces, some of which you might not even be able to take control of, for example, the economy. But if you follow these steps today, what we can do is we can make sure that people know, the right people, the decision makers, will know who you are, so that when opportunities come up, they will think of you as the problem solver and will invite you to be applying for the position. And that's what we want to do. So number one, we're not going to panic, but we also want to assess what our finances are right now. So I do encourage you to do a financial self-assessment so that you know how long can you go without a job, and in particular, how long can you go without X amount of dollars or X amount of euros or whatever it is. How long can you go without a full-time position or a half-time position? Would you need to take an interim position right now that's maybe not in your field so that you can at least bring in the money right now and then devote your time to finding an opportunity that would be right for your skill set and for your interests and your loves? Can you do a short-term project now, perhaps? Maybe you can do a job, maybe you can do something like in the lab of the professor that you're working for as you're graduating or as you're finishing up your postdoc. Maybe for a few more months you can extend that contract, or maybe just work for him or her under another type of contract just so that you can bring in some more money. But I do want you to note that just in case there is a situation where you don't get the job that you want right this moment, at the time when I graduated, my dream job, my aim, my goal was to work for Intel Corporation, and my idea was if I don't get that job, I will look for other opportunities too. And even if I don't find opportunities that, even if they seem like they wouldn't be opportunities that I would like or that would be good for me, recognize that every opportunity that you take could potentially, and in fact will definitely give you experience and skills and expertise that you can move into the right direction to help you find the job that you do want. So you do have to have contingency plans just in case you don't find the job that you want right away. Okay, step 2, know what you can and want to do. So this is really important because I could come to you today and I could say, hey dude, I have a job for you at X company in this particular industry. And that might sound really great to you. And hey, you're perfect. You have all the skills we need. You speak our language. You know how to solve our problems. But you'll have to be working in Antarctica. And unfortunately, the only location we have is on that ice sheet that's about to break and is going to cause global dissemination. So is that necessarily the type of job that you want right now? Maybe not, right? If your landscape that you're going to be working on is going to go under the ocean that's going to rise, that might not be the place to be. So you have to figure out, what skills do I enjoy using? What tasks do I enjoy doing? And then use this to identify what your career goals and needs are. And even though this is last minute, even though this is like, just as you're graduating, or even if you graduated a month ago, it's, like I said, it's never too late to do these types of self-assessments. And I'm going to give you a tool in just a moment. But I want you to think about your career goals and your needs from different angles. So first of all, I want you to think about it in a very amorphous way. Do you want to lead a team? Do you want to work in academia, maybe do research, teach? Maybe I want to work with lasers. I really like lasers. When I was a student, I knew I wanted to be in business, quote unquote, in business. I didn't know what the heck that meant. I just pictured myself in an office with a window, wearing a suit, carrying a briefcase to work every day. In fact, when I was a kindergarten, on my very first day of kindergarten, I took a briefcase. Instead of a backpack or a bag, I brought a briefcase to kindergarten. That's a true story. So I had this view, this amorphous vision in my brain my entire life of wanting to work, quote unquote, in business. And I just stuck with that. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't realize at the time that, of course, everything is a business, even academia. But I did focus in on what it was that I enjoyed about being in business. Like, I loved sales. So I sold things. I sold magazine subscriptions when I was a kid. I sold nachos at the Society of Physics students booth at the carnival when I was a student at the University of Arizona. I did marketing. I did public relations. I did things that I naturally enjoyed doing. So what I want you to see, this goes back to that first point, what skills do you have right now that you enjoy using? Then this will start to help you, and then you start to think about what are the amorphous sort of systems in which you'd be able to use these skills and the tasks that you enjoy doing. So then I also want you to think a little bit more specificity. Right here, okay, like I want to code in Python. I want to work on a particular project that relates to physics and cancer. Or I want to work on maybe oil and gas, but not necessarily in the actual field, but I want to design the technical equipment that's used to, for example, characterize a reservoir or a well. And then I want you to also be thinking about the ecosystems in which you would like to operate. Do you really love academia? Now, of course, for most of you, you've been in academia for almost all of your life, so that might be all you know. But with networking and with other opportunities that I'm going to show you in just a moment, you can find out about some other ecosystems that would be very, very exciting for you to be able to do the type of job that you want, and to be able to solve the types of problems that you desire, and to be able to use the types of skills that you really, really enjoy using most. So these ecosystems, I want you to think about them. Academia, would you enjoy maybe working in a nonprofit? Could you enjoy maybe working in a startup or an established company? And be a little bit more specific. Do I like oil and gas? So maybe I like to work for an oil and gas company. Or maybe I like to work for a nonprofit hospital, somehow to use my geophysics knowledge to combat cancer in some way. So I would like a hospital type of environment. So think about this. Remember, this is just your career plan. We're working it out on paper so that you start to see connections. And then I also want you to be thinking about geography in terms of your career goals and needs. Because if you have to be in New Jersey because your family is there and there's an obligation to your family that you yourself and your partner or whomever have decided, then that is going to limit your career options and your job opportunities. But that's fine. That's fine because we need to put a limit on some things, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. So if your geography is not limited, or if you have an idea of where you want, not necessarily need, where you want to work, maybe I want to work in Japan, or I want to work in Western Europe, or maybe I want to work within 2 hours of my partner, or I want to work in a place where my partner and I can both travel within 2 hours from that central location to our jobs. So in that way, you start to think about what it is that where it is that you could potentially do your job, and where potentially you could look for jobs. Now, many of you have seen this skill inventory matrix, and I'm actually going to send you a copy of this for everybody that registered for this webinar. So this is a private document. I'm not going to go into too much detail because many of you have seen this. but I just wanted you to see that this is a self-assessment document. You don't ever have to show it to anybody. You don't have to show it to your mom and your daddy, your boyfriend, or your puppy dog. It's just for you to start thinking about why you are so coveted by so many different industries, how talented you are. So we have in that first column, right, we have the first column on the left, we're going to list all the experiences that we've had, like jobs, volunteer experience, internships, maybe we volunteered in our community or in our religious organization or anything like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to just list all of those. And if you worked for McDonald's for 2 weeks before they fired you because they found out you were eating the French fries, that's fine too. Just put that down there. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start dissecting those particular positions into what were the scientific skills that we gained from that experience. In other words, what were the technical skills? And under technical skills are science skills. They could be engineering skills. They could be related to instrument or machining. And then, of course, your computing skills, including your software packages, your languages, your platforms, and all sorts of data analysis tools as well. Now, there's also a boatload of business skills that you've gained, and this goes back to my point about how everything is a business. You know, as a scientist, as you all know, you definitely have project management experience. So this is great. We want to I want you to know that you have project management experience. And you have a lot more of these skills than you probably even thought about because nobody ever told you. Your PI never said to you, hey, guess what? You know how to do customer relations. Who's your customer? Of course, it's your PI. So you can handle your PI. You have customer relations. If you've written a grant, you know sales and marketing. If you've been involved in a lab or a field exercise, you absolutely were dealing with risk management, risk assessment, and safety and protocol analysis. So there's lots of things here that in industry, in academia, in nonprofit, in government, and any other sector, they look for these types of positions. They look for these types of skills. So we want to be sure that we actually put these skills into our marketing documents, but also into our brain, into the frontal cortex. We want to know just how awesome we are. And not in a bad way, not in a braggadocio way. I want you to recognize how important you are, how many skills you have gained. You are not, quote unquote, just a scientist. You are a scientist who has an exorbitant amount of skills that are highly, highly coveted by many, many decision makers. Now, you also develop soft skills like oral and written communications, leadership, diplomacy, conflict resolution, and then the characteristics are the things like being detail-oriented or results-driven, anything that you recognized about yourself when you were in that job, when you were in that experience, that will help you determine what are the types of opportunities that you want to pursue. Now, of course, you also don't want to forget your language abilities, right? So if you speak, write, read another language besides your native language, put that on your resume. Make sure you let people know that. If you do it, if you speak 5 languages, holy mackerel, that's just advances your opportunities. Now, there's actually 2 hidden columns here in the skill inventory matrix, but I'm giving it to you guys today because, again, you're such a wonderful audience. So the 2 hidden columns that are here, the first column is the love column. What did I love about this job, about this volunteer experience, about this project, about this thesis, about this dissertation? And be very granulistic. I loved working with this particular type of code. I loved writing code in this environment. I liked using this particular instrument. I like solving this type of problem. I like this type of communications method. I like this type of boss. And then there's a final column, and you know what that column is, ladies and gentlemen. Say it with me. It's the hate column. It's the loathe column. It's the column that you would rather not do for the rest of your life. You'd rather take a fork and shove it in your eyeball and mix it around a little bit, maybe take out some of that vitreous jelly, look at it on a plate, versus doing that thing ever, ever again. So be honest with yourself. What did you do in those things, in those jobs, in those experiences that you don't ever want to do again? This helps to put a border, a boundary on the potential infinite possibilities for you in terms of career opportunities. And this is another analysis tool that is very, very useful. You see this a lot in startups. We see this a lot in business school. In fact, business students are usually taught this on day 1. This is a SWOT analysis. It's usually used to identify and analyze a particular market, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats. But you can use it as a personal tool for yourself too, and I use it for myself as well. So strengths and weaknesses up at the top there, those are intrinsic qualities. What are my strengths? I am an expert in this skill. I'm an expert in that skill. What are my weaknesses? Be honest. I don't necessarily know enough Python. I could use some more expertise in Python. Or, my weakness is I don't work well when I have more than 3 people on a team. Or maybe one of my weaknesses is I need a particular type of certification if I'm going to go for this type of a job. Or I need this particular type of expertise if I'm going to go for this particular job. So think about what your weaknesses are. And then that bottom part, the opportunities and the threats, are extrinsic. So the opportunities section, that is going to come to you as you start analyzing all of the different things that you've done. So you're going to start looking at and also in your networking and also in your research, which we're going to get to. And what's going to happen here is the strengths and all the things that you filled out on your skill inventory matrix are actually going to start coming together, and you're going to see parallels, you're going to see overlaps. It's going to be this amazing Venn diagram that's going to show you what type of opportunity you should be pursuing. Like, for example, for myself, when I was an undergraduate student, like I mentioned, I was a math major, I was a co-president of the Society of Physics Students, I was doing marketing, I was doing public relations, I was doing event management, I was doing all these things. I really loved them. I did them naturally, and I wanted to do them more and more and more. I didn't realize that that was a job. I didn't realize that I could get paid for that. And I certainly didn't realize that as a math major, I could get paid for that. Because as many of you know, when I went to my advisor and said, what can I do with my math degree as I was graduating, he said, there's nothing. Literally nothing you can do with your math degree when you are graduating, which was absolutely hilarious when you think about that. But what I did was I just went with what I enjoyed, and what happened was this skill inventory matrix that I had created for myself in a very early rudimentary form, not what you see here, I started to see, sorry about that, I started to see lots and lots of different connections. And so, and the connections all sort of came together under the sort of heading of communications, and in particular science communications. So that was the type of opportunities that I looked for, were opportunities that were related to science communications. You may not know what the title is of the opportunities that you want yet, but that's going to come from your networking and from your research. Now the threats. The threats don't necessarily mean me coming at you with a knife. That's not what I mean by a threat. A threat could be an economic threat. It could be a threat. It might not be even a negative thing. For example, like the example I gave before, if you need to be in New Jersey for your family, if you are offered a job in California, then that's a threat, right? So you can't take that job in California because you have to be in New Jersey. Maybe the company that you want to work for or the organization that you want to work for just laid off 6,000 workers. So that could be a potential threat, right, because maybe they're not hiring. On the other hand, if you stay in touch with the company and you stay connected and you do Google News searches of that company and follow their path out of this down point in their history, you might find that they actually are starting to build back capacity, in which case they would actually need to go ahead and hire people with your skills now. So this could be an opportunity, not a threat. So knowing these things would be very, very useful. Okay, moving on. Step 2A. Before we go on, we need to figure out, is there anything else that you need to move forward? Do you need a particular certification? Do you need a particular online course? Can you take a quick online course or do a short-term project that could give you experience and skills for the type of opportunity that you're interested in? Could this be accomplished by an internship or maybe even an informational interview? I've been talking a lot recently with data scientists. As you may or may not know, data scientists, the jobs are just all over the place. You can walk down the street and step over 17 data science jobs these days, and so it is truly a seller's market, a buyer's market. You as a data scientist, as a geoscientist, you have exceptional data skills, and so if you wanted to move into data science, you could do that. And so I've been talking, for an article I'm writing for Science Magazine, I've been talking to a lot of data scientists about how they could make themselves more marketable for jobs in, for example, big pharma and biotech companies. And one of the constant things that people said was, think about doing bridge programs where you gain expertise, like a 6-week bridge program where you gain expertise in specific data science analysis for companies like LinkedIn and Facebook and so on and so forth. And then from there, you could, quote unquote, graduate. This would be after your graduation, this would be after you get your degree, maybe even after your postdoc. But you do this bridge program, you, quote unquote, graduate from this bridge program and then be able to get a job in one of these types of organizations. By the way, if you are interested in data science as a career, which is, like I said, there are tons and tons of jobs out there, you might look into the Insight Data Science Fellowships, and if you have questions, you can email me after the webinar. But I just wanted you to be aware of the fact that there might be some other things that you can do right now to beef up your expertise, to beef up your experience. And, I was just working with a colleague of mine who is applying for a job in healthcare, and he was very, very interested in this particular job. And so what he did was he found out the person who had just left the position. That person had just left the position. He contacted that person, asked for an informational interview. I just want to learn a little bit more about the climate at the company, a little bit more about what you did, what skills you used, and so on and so forth. And one of the things this person told my colleague was you should be enrolled in A and B certificate programs. And if you're not, get enrolled now so that they see that on your resume, so that they see that you're dedicated to this program, you're dedicated to this field, and that will be demonstrated by the fact that you're in the certificate program now. So you may not have the certificate while you're applying for the job, or you may not have the experience right now while you're applying for the job, but if you can show that you're getting the experience or you're finding a way to get the experience, this will help you be more marketable. And so going back to that idea of weaknesses on your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, that SWOT analysis, if your weakness is a particular hard skill, like a programming skill or maybe a particular methodology in the lab or in the field, if you can gain experience right now and show people that that is something that you're working on, so that if you were hired to do a job where you'd be doing using that particular skill, you would be able to jump in immediately and be able to add value. So look for those opportunities. Okay, step three, know who desires you. Like I mentioned, you are truly desired. Now this list that you see in front of you, holy mackerel, this list comes from, some of you have seen this before, this is a list of different sectors, different industries that I never, ever, ever would have guessed could be accessed by somebody with a physics degree. So these come from a column that I write for the American Physical Society newsletter, APS News. The column is called Profiles in Versatility, and for the last 6 years I've been writing this column about physicists and people with physics-related degrees, like physical chemists and geophysicists, for example, who go into non-traditional careers. And these are all of the different non-traditional careers that they've gone into, things that I never would have guessed, like international aid or forensics or food or consumer products or well, oil and gas we could have guessed, airplane maybe, banking, art restoration, even biotech and video games. So the reason I show this to you is I wanted you to, A, see the plethora and the diversity of the types of sectors that really, really want you for your skill sets, your scientific skill sets, your business skill sets, and of course your overarching problem-solving skill sets. And I also want you to be thinking entrepreneurially. If you really enjoy video games, just because your advisor says, well, you have a geosciences degree, of course the only thing you can do is go to graduate school and become a geoscience professor, doesn't mean that you can't go and start designing video games. Some of the top people at Pixar, Pixar, which makes all the animation movies today, they win Oscars, they are physicists, mathematicians, geoscientists, geophysicists, people who have very high-level mathematics and computer science skills. They may have gotten a degree that says something different, but if they have the skills, they're hired in to solve those problems. They're hired in to design those movies. And it's the same thing with the video game world. So if you love video games, if you eat and sleep and drink and think and do nothing but think about video games, then I don't see any reason why you can't pursue an opportunity in video games. So this is a partial list. Like I said, I want you to be entrepreneurial. And in general, if you know of an opportunity, go for it. And what I mean by that is opportunities are fleeting. They are very, very fast. They stay away. They stay around for a moment, not even a nanosecond, maybe a picosecond if you're lucky, and they disappear. And an opportunity here could be an opportunity to actually apply for a job. It could be an opportunity to meet with somebody about a job. It could be an opportunity to meet with somebody who knows somebody in the company that you would like to get a job in. It's any type of opportunity. So if you see an opportunity, you go for it right now. And one of my favorite opportunities that I always like to illustrate in this regard is if you are at a conference or if you are at your home institution and Dr. God is giving a talk, go up to Dr. God at the end of the talk and say, hi, my name is, I really enjoyed your talk, I'm doing this, I'm about to graduate, Could I take you out for a cup of coffee while you're here on campus? Maybe I could even take you to the airport. You could arrange in advance. That's one of my secret tips, is ask if you can either meet the person or pick them up or take them to the airport when they're coming to speak on campus, so that you get a chance to actually have that private FaceTime. And if they don't have time right there because their schedule's packed while they're on the campus at your institution, then certainly ask for a follow-up appointment. Ask for a meeting via Skype or via phone. The other thing I want you to do while you figure out to see who desires you, why you are so marketable, is I want you to review job boards. And it's not just to see about the open positions, because that is very important. We want to start looking at parallels between positions and your resume, positions and your skills. We want to start learning the right vocabulary so we can use that vocabulary in our marketing materials. But I also want you to start looking about and getting research about particular companies and organizations and institutions, which you can often glean from just looking at the jobs that they advertise. You'll start to see, oh, they're building up capacity in Department X, or they're looking to build up more expertise in the R&D department with people who have geosciences backgrounds. This is important strategic information for you to know. And you're also going to be doing Google News searches for the companies and the organizations, so you can find out what are the trends and what are the underlying issues that these organizations and these companies are facing right now. Because what's going to happen is you're going to incorporate that information into your informational interviews. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Now, step 4 is to organize your marketing materials. Just like if I was selling a home, I wouldn't just say, put a thing out in front of my house, say, for sale, and I wouldn't clean the bathroom first or tidy up the curb appeal or anything like that. If I'm going to sell my house, I have to make sure that bathroom is clean, that everything is clean, that there's nothing out that could be quote-unquote incriminating, and everything is put away and very nice and neat. And the same thing goes with you incorporated, right? So we need to organize your marketing materials. So the first marketing material that you have is your brand statement. It's your first and your last and your middle. The reason I say that is because this is the thing. This is the statement that you're going to make to people about what it is that you can do for them. Hi, my name is Alaina G. Levine. I'm a mathematician with an expertise in X and Y. I'm really excited about your company because of the work that you're doing in Z and Z plus 1. In fact, during my thesis, we were able to just analyze Z, and we found that there was a connection not only between Z and Z plus 1, but Z plus 1, and Z plus 3. What I'm looking for is for an opportunity where I might be able to utilize my skills in Python, my coding skills, and my other types of coding skills, and my expertise in really major quantification analysis. Would there be an opportunity available in your organization? So that's a great opening brand statement. It ends with a question, that's true, but it still indicates what it is that I can do for you. It's communicating my brand, my promise of value. So you're going to have multiple brand statements for multiple audiences, and I want you to come up with a bunch of them. I want you to think about who could be potential audiences, somebody that you want a job from, somebody who you want to talk to just to get information about an organization or an industry, somebody that you meet at a career fair, somebody that you meet at a conference, somebody that you meet at an airplane, because even they could potentially get you a job. And believe me, many of you have heard me talk about the fact that I have gotten jobs and gigs and contracts and opportunities that have paid me money from delivering my brand statement on the delivering my brand statement on the on an airplane, just talking with somebody on an airplane. Okay, I know my sound just went away for a few moments. I hope that you can hear me now. If you can't hear me, just send me a quick question and let me know. So in addition, you also want to have your resume and your CV ready to go, and you might need both, depending on what type of position you're looking for. A CV is more for academic positions and also research positions, so it's very long. It's an exhaustive length of all of the different problems you've solved in science and engineering. And then a resume is more skill-based, and that's where we would pull skills from that skill inventory matrix to actually populate the resume. We're going to put together cover letters, and I say cover letters because we actually will have multiple cover letters. Just like with our brand statement, where we're going to have multiple audiences that we're going to be delivering them to, in which case we have to be nimble and quick and flexible in how we deliver and what we mention in our brand statement, depending on the audience. Our cover letter also has to be nimble and flexible and adaptable. And so when you do this research online about different companies and look at the job boards and see the trends and have your informational interviews, you'll start to get a sense of what's important to put in the cover letter. And if you can customize the cover letter, guess what? You have immediately moved to the 1% of the pile that nobody else, 99% of the people who apply for a job do not customize their cover letter. They just write a cover letter where they talk about me, 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 me. But quite honestly, when I'm reading your cover letter, I want to hear about me, the decision maker. I do want to hear about you, the job applicant. I want to hear about what you can do. I want to hear about what problems you solve. But I want to understand, you need to break it down and connect the dots for me, the decision maker, what it is specifically that you have done that will help me. And the way you do that is you reference something associated with my company, with something that we've talked about, with a product that we know what is going on, maybe a grant I got or a research project or a paper that I'm involved in. Do something so that you put yourself above the pile and show them that you are really committed to that particular job or that particular type of organization. Similarly with cold emails, emails that you send to people that you would like to connect with for informational or informal conversations, you also want to say something about them. And in cold emails, generally I probably would not say, even at this point, and even at this late point, I probably would not say, hi, I'm looking for a job. But what I would say is, hi, my name is Alaina Levine. I've referenced something about them. I'm a PhD student in geophysics at the University of Arizona studying X and Y. I'll be graduating at the end of this year, and I'm just beginning my career exploration. Your paper in Nature was interesting to me. Or I read an article about you in Forbes, which was interesting to me. Or I saw your profile on LinkedIn, and there seems to be synergy between our work. I'd love to learn more about what you're working on, and maybe there's an opportunity for me to contribute to your organization. And I'd also like to learn a little bit more about the climate of your organization and see if there might be an opportunity for me to even work there. I mean, you could even say that at this point. But I always prefer look for an opportunity to contribute to your organization because it's a little bit indirect, but at the same time, the person is going to be more apt to have a conversation with you, which could lead you to getting information about opportunities that are hidden and also opportunities that are about to be advertised. You also want to have a business card so that when you are interacting with people in person, and also when you send thank you notes, you can send them with a business card. It doesn't have to have your picture on it. It doesn't have to have a logo. It can simply be your name, your credentials, PhD Geophysics, the University of Arizona, or postdoctoral associate, Princeton University, Geophysics. It could have 2 to 3 areas of your sub-expertise, your email, your phone number, and then, of course, your LinkedIn profile. And use the customized URL for the LinkedIn profile. And so that profile is also part of your marketing materials, right? You have to let people know what it is that you can do. And I'm going to talk about the LinkedIn more in just a moment. And then the last piece of the marketing material package is the appropriate professional clothing that you will need as to when you are looking for opportunities in that particular company or in that particular industry. If I was going for an engineering job at a government lab, I probably would not necessarily wear a 3-piece suit and 7-inch heels. But if I was going for a job maybe at a university, I probably would wear like a nice suit. It doesn't have to be something that you spend $1,000 on. You can still spend very little money, but get very, very nice material. The point is that I want you to look professional. You need to look professional, meaning you have to look like you are serious about your craft and that you are serious about the position that you're engaging and that you're interested in applying for. Okay. Step 5. Okay, let's tidy up, just like we've tidied up our marketing materials, we need to tidy up our online presence because, as my mother says, and she's correct, cyberspace is forever space. So before we go out and say, hey everybody, let's look at my Facebook page because I'm applying for jobs here, or we say, hey everybody, look at my LinkedIn page because I'm applying for a job here, we're going to remove any pictures that we have access to that could be potentially inappropriate, offensive, or could give us a bad feeling about your brand, could shed a different light on what you truly represent. So we're going to take away those pictures of you drunk at Cabo. We're going to delete them. And remember, even if they're private, quote unquote private, it's not private. Okay? Anybody can share that photo, and even if they don't, there's always a way for me to get into your Facebook page and your Instagram account and so on and so forth. So you can note privacy controls and you can put some privacy controls on them, but we do want to be extremely careful about pictures and statements and links that we put in association with our brand, because we don't want people thinking of us in any way other than being a professional in this area. So we're going to put together a title and a headline, particularly in LinkedIn, on LinkedIn profile. You're going to have a title, and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be postdoctoral associate. It can be, but it could be simply geophysicist with expertise in X, Y, and Z. In other words, tell me what it is you do for me, right? And that's the same thing on your resume template that I'm going to send you as well. I have a headline and list 3 to 4, even sometimes 5 areas of my expertise that shows you immediately what I can do for you. Remember, the job search process is never about what you, the job seeker, can get from me, the decision maker. It's always about what you, the job seeker, can do for me, the decision maker. So tell me what you can do for me in your LinkedIn profile. And add that professional photo, right? I should be able to see your eyeballs as much as possible. It shouldn't be something of you wearing a bathing suit, and nothing inappropriate. And there's actually been statistics that have been studied and have been let out, have been announced by LinkedIn itself. They've actually done studies about this, that people who have profile pictures are actually something like 7 times more likely to have their profile looked at and analyzed versus people without a photo. So you definitely need a photo. And the only exception I would say to a photo without like me seeing like a close-up of your face with you smiling and looking professional would be one of my colleagues. In her photo on her LinkedIn page, it's a picture of her with a particular type of instrumentation and it's used for her geophysics area of expertise. So her standing next to it is totally relevant because it shows me that she knows how to use it. She's used it in the field. That would be totally fine. I can't necessarily see her eyeballs, but I see that it's her, and I see she's using this particular type of instrument, which is important. So we're going to incorporate into the LinkedIn profile our brand. We're going to make sure we use keyword skills, so the skills that LinkedIn allows you to use so that you can be found. We're going to list our successes because this is not bragging. You are genuinely, authentically telling me, the decision maker, why you are the awesomest person for this particular position, okay? Please, please make sure that you list why it is that you would be perfect for this job on your LinkedIn profile. In other words, tell me that you won this grant. Tell me that you won this particular event, or that you went to this particular conference that was an invitation only, or that you were invited to give a talk here, or that you were invited to participate on this thing, or that you won an award. This is not bragging. This is strategic information that I need if I'm going to make a decision to invite you in for an interview. And the key thing, the final thing you need to think about with your online presence is you need to ask yourself, if someone wanted to find me, in other words, if they wanted to find me for a particular job or a particular skill, if they just did a search for that skill or that job or that title, would they be able to in fact find me? And if the answer is no, have your friends do a search for you under different skills that you enjoy using that you like to do for a job. If the answer is no, then you have to go back and edit your LinkedIn profile so that you can actually make sure that it is seen. Now, of course, this bubble here with the LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google+, these are just a few of the many social media sites that you will be using. LinkedIn right now is the professional standard. It's the professional marketplace for all professionals to find opportunities for work. So that's why I want you to be on LinkedIn. That's what it should be where your most efforts and focus and energy should be. But I want you to also keep in mind about these things too, especially with Google+. Because if you apply for a job in my organization, the first thing I'm going to do is Google you. And if I have a Google+ account, if you have a Google+ account, then what happens is your name comes up there right at the top of Google, and it shows me a picture of you. If you posted a picture of yourself on Google+, it shows me your headline and even your contact information. So that's really straightforward, great information that I can immediately see. And the second thing that I'm going to do when you apply for a job with me is I'm going to go and see what your LinkedIn profile looks like. Just this week, I was sending out cold emails to colleagues about some contracting ideas and some ideas for collaboration, and I noticed that they were looking at my LinkedIn profile. So you make sure that's up and ready to go. So next, number 6, we need to find opportunities to demonstrate and amplify our brand, which is our promise of value, and our reputation. We need to make sure that our reputation is being spread amongst the people that make decisions. So even now, even as you're graduating, keep this is the plan for you to get a job. I want you to start thinking about maybe every week looking for at least one opportunity or solidifying one opportunity that allows you to demonstrate your brand to decision makers or allows you to amplify your reputation to people who are connected to decision makers. So what do I mean by that? I mean speaking like at conferences, of course, but also regionally based chapters, like for example, the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, for those of you who are chemists, geochemists, they have chapters. The Society of Women Engineers, they have chapters. So you can go to these chapters of these organizations. But there's also business organizations and business events in your area, that in your geographic area, that you can start attending just to start getting to know these people who are connected to people who could be hiring you. I want you to also be thinking about writing. And going back to the speaking, for the moment, I want you to think about speaking at these organizations. You know, maybe you could volunteer to give a talk at the Girl Scouts, or maybe you could volunteer to give a talk at a business meeting for the Chamber of Commerce about the importance of geoscience in the community, or the importance of geoscience to the economy of your region. That's a talk that I, being a non-geoscientist, would definitely be interested in attending. And that's something that would immediately elevate your brand, your attitude, your reputation into a new sort of area, into a new group of people. This is the kind of impact that we want to make. We want people to see you out there demonstrating your brand. And what happens is when you give these talks, when you write, when you volunteer, and when you do all these different things, people start associating you as a leader. They think you're a leader, they think you're the expert, and guess what? They then offer you the hidden opportunities, which I'm going to get to. So offer to write for example, AGU's newsletter, offer to write for the newsletter associated with your institution or your newspaper associated with your institution. Offer to write for example, some of you who are in postdocs, you can, if you're a member of the Postdoc Association, you can offer to write for their newsletter, and so on and so on and so forth. Excuse me just a second. Okay. So the other thing I want you to think about also in terms of elevating your brand, demonstrating your brand, is to volunteer so that people see you in action. They see your brand in action. So volunteer to be on committees, volunteer to drive that colloquium speaker to the airport, and when you're traveling, volunteer to give talks at your alma mater if you're going back home, or at other universities, or attend alumni mixers of chapters in that city. A colleague of mine wanted to go back to move to Greece. She is Greek, and she wanted to move back to Greece after she finished her postdoc, and so every time she came home to Greece, she arranged to give talks at her alma mater, and soon other Greek universities were inviting her to give talks at their universities. So by the time she was able to come back, not only did she have an excellent brand, which was demonstrated by all of her outputs, such as, you know, her professional outputs of being an academic, the publishing, the speaking, the grant writing, and the teaching, and so on and so forth, but she was already known in the community, so people recognized her, and they were more excited and more interested and willing to give her opportunities. I'm sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties, so hold on just a second, please. Okay. Yes. Okay. Next. Now, high impact networking. So networking, many of you know, is not just me meeting you once and never talking to you again. It's a spectrum of activities that aims for a exchange of value between you and me, and builds a win-win partnership over time. The importance of high impact networking right now, while you are at the end of your graduation or the end of your postdoc, cannot be overstated, because what high impact networking gets you is it gets you access to hidden opportunities, opportunities that don't exist, opportunities that just opened and haven't been advertised, or opportunities that aren't going to be advertised and they need to find somebody. And see, whenever there's an opportunity, that means there's a problem that needs to be solved. And if you're networking with the right people, they will let you know what, I'm so glad you're telling me that you're an expert in this particular area of geophysics. We actually have an opportunity in my lab for somebody in that area. I'm so glad you stopped by. Oh, that's interesting. You know X? You know, my buddy who works for Bill Gates, he was just saying that Bill is really in need of somebody who knows X. Let me give you his contact information so you can connect with Bill. So these hidden opportunities come to you only through networking. And you know what? There's been statistics. I would say probably about 90% of jobs. 90% of jobs are gotten only through networking, and they're gotten through accessing hidden opportunities. So when you network, what you do is you're finding out about the hidden opportunities, you're interacting with decision makers for advertised positions, right, so that they get to know you in advance of the job, so that they would be more inclined to answer your inquiry, right? They would be interested in looking at your resume first. If they know you, if I'm the decision maker and I have a problem, right, I'm advertising for a job, and let's say I get 100 resumes, but you and I have already talked. We've networked. We've connected. We've had an informal conversation. You've told me a little bit about what you're interested in. I've told you a little bit more about the position, maybe about the climate, about what we're looking for. And you tell me, that's great, I'm so excited, I'm going to be sending you my materials. I'm going to look for your materials because you are making my job easier. You are solving the problem that I have in front of me, which is simply, I have to hire somebody. You're solving that problem and you're making my life easier. So I'm going to look at your stuff first. And in addition, high-impact networking gets you access to people who know the decision makers for the opportunities. So it goes down the chain. Okay. So with high-impact networking, what we need to do is look for what I call networking nodes. So a node is anything, person, place, being, that congregates, that aggregates like-minded people for the potential of networking. So a great example of a networking node is a conference, or a smaller networking node would be a mixer at a conference. A great networking node is your poster. When you're getting a poster at a conference, that is a networking node. People are naturally walking by, they're looking at at the posters in the poster farm, and you can draw them into a conversation and talk to them about what it is that you're working on. So that's a networking node. So take advantage of AGU, take advantage of other societies, take advantage of conferences. Even if you can't go to the conference, follow the Twitter feed to see who is making impacts at the conference, who are speaking, what are the trends that are being discussed, as well as the disgusting trends. You want to find out about those too, right? Because we want to stay away from the disgusting, despicable, horrible trends that could potentially derail your career or might be good information for you in terms of a particular job. You don't want to go in that job. We're going to ask our trusted mentors for referrals. We're going to seek out fellow alums and friends. Remember, the people that you're working with in labs in your group right now are people that you are connected with forever. So even if you don't talk to them for 20 years, you can still talk to them in 20 years. Believe me, I met some guy at a conference 15 years ago, and I emailed him just like a couple of weeks ago to reintroduce myself, tell him what conference we met at, and talk to him about the potential of working with him, and he was open to that informal conversation. So that person that you meet is always available for you to, unless they drop dead, of course. They're generally available for you to always go back. So it's never too late. So with your fellow alums and your friends and the people that you interacted with in clubs, in college, or in your group in your postdoc appointment, you can reach out to them. And you can also reach out to postdocs and alums who came before you from that same group. But you also look for people that you can interact with and network with through the directories. So you're a member of AGU, and you're probably a member of other societies, which gives you access to that directory. So go through the directory, see who's there, see who is working for an organization that you're interested in, or who's working in a job that sounds really exciting, and ask for that informational interview. And then finally, locally, there are these things called industry clusters. This is important for you to know for geographic areas, because let's say I want to move to Tucson, Arizona, where I'm based, and it would be good for me to do a Google search, technology industry clusters. And what I find is that there is a large contingent of optics companies in Tucson. So an industry cluster is a critical mass of companies in a like-minded industry, all in the same geographic region, and they're not only the companies themselves, but they're the feeder companies. So not only are there a large number of optics companies in Tucson, but there's a lot of companies that make glass and make lasers and make all sorts of support mechanisms that support these companies. This is important for you to know for a particular region if you're interested, so that you can connect with these people, particularly if you want to go outside of academia. But even if you don't, academics and industry collaborations often occur. So for you to know who are the major tech industry clusters in the areas that you're interested in, the geographic areas, and who are the leaders in those clusters, those are the people you can reach out to and ask for informational interviews and ask them questions about, what are the opportunities there? I have this type of background. Do you know of opportunities and things of that nature? So we always say with networking that the long-term aim is a win-win. Now, because we're in a time-sensitive situation, right? We're graduating, or we've just graduated, or we're about to. We have also a short-term aim, which is the same. It's a win-win. It's not just, I want to extract a job from you. It's not, dear Dr. X, do you have any openings in your lab? Love, Alaina. It's, dear Dr. X, I read your paper in Nature. I thought it was so interesting. I'm working on X. You're working on X plus 1. I think there might be an opportunity. Could we have an informal conversation? I'd like to learn how I might be able to assist you. How maybe I can solve your problems in a very unique way. Maybe there's a way for us to collaborate or partner to write a grant proposal or write a paper together. Or I'd like to learn how I could contribute value to your organization. These are the questions that you can ask when you're talking to people about work, when you're talking to people about jobs. And yes, you can say, are there any openings right now? But I would start in the cold email by saying, I'd like to see how we might be able to collaborate, and how I might be able to contribute to your organization. Could we set up an informal conversation? So number 7, as we continue, in the high-impact networking, for both known and unknown positions, when you're doing your informal conversations, I've kind of already said this, but I want to go into some detail of conversations that you can have or questions that you can have. And this includes asking people what types of opportunities are available with someone with my expertise. Tell them, I'm excited about your company because of X and Y, and not with a question mark, of course, but I'm excited about your company because of X and Y. Is there an opportunity to do X more, or are you focusing more on Y these days? How can I best prepare for an opportunity at your company? What skills do you especially look for but don't see often enough in candidates? These are legitimate, authentic questions that you can ask in informational interviews. Step 8, of course, is to utilize and really leverage that social media. And you can use the Find Alumni tab on LinkedIn. It's fantastic. It's really good. It's up at the top when you hover over Network. You want to join relevant groups so that you can observe the activity and the trends and the jobs that are posted in the groups, contribute to the groups, and then reply privately to the individuals to set up appointments to talk about potential collaborations, i.e. potential opportunities where you could work for them. But what I really wanted you to point out, and also you can search for jobs, which is really good, but in the end of your academic career, right? Not career, but the academic experience that you're having right now, whether you're graduating or whether you're finishing your postdoc, I would recommend to consider investing in LinkedIn Premium. Now, it is a little bit of money. I think it's $50 a month. But what it allows you to do is it opens up a lot more access on LinkedIn for you to network and connect with people. And one of the things that it does is it allows you to see who has looked at your profile. So right now, without LinkedIn profile for free, you can see a very small number of people who have looked at your profile. But with LinkedIn Premium, you can see almost everybody. And this is very useful to me, and I have talked to postdocs who got jobs specifically from that feature. They saw that Dr. X had looked at their profile. So they emailed Dr. X and said, thank you for looking at my profile. I think there's an opportunity to collaborate. Could we set up an informal appointment, an informal discussion? I'd love to learn more about what you do. Maybe there's an opportunity for me to contribute value to your group, your company, your team. And that doctor or that professor or whoever it was said yes, because obviously they were interested in something about that person, right? They went to their profile, and that created a connection, and that created a job offer. It literally created a job offer. So that's why I want you to think about even just doing it for just a few months, investing in LinkedIn Premium. And by the way, LinkedIn is not paying me, so it's not my business. I just wanted you to know that I myself and people that I've known have gotten great and specific return on the investment for it. So finally, step 9, we want to take advantage of our institution's career resources. So you may even have a career center on your campus if you're still in an academic institution. They can assist you. One of the things that they can do for you, which you might not have thought of, is at least they can help you with a mock interview. And they can often videotape you doing a mock interview so you can see how many ums you insert into a conversation or how many fingers you insert into your nose during an interview. You might not even realize that your finger's going up there at least 5 or 6 times in both nostrils. So we want to know that in advance so that we're prepared for really formal interviews. And of course, we can take advantage of campus events And of course, we're at the end of the semester, right? I understand that. So take a look at the last year. Take a look at the calendar of colloquium speakers, of activities that happened over the last year on your campus to see who came, and email that person and say, unfortunately I missed your colloquium, but I'm still really interested in your work. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Could we maybe make an appointment? So that's totally fine to do. People don't do it, and that will immediately set you ahead of the bar, give you a competitive advantage. And then also with the alumni associations, when I travel, as much as possible, I connect with the chapter president of the alumni association in that city. And then I go out to coffee with them so I can learn a little bit about the trends and who's hiring, what are the major companies, and also network. Just network to learn what's happening, to learn who's there, where could I go, and what type of opportunities can I pursue. And then, of course, here we are on step 10, but I told you that there's a secret step, right? So there's a secret step after step 10. And the step 10 here, I wanted to make it obvious here, is that I want you to apply for jobs, okay? Yes, networking is going to get you access to hidden jobs. It's going to get you access to 90% of jobs. But we, being scientists, are going to keep our options totally open. And so we're going to also look for opportunities elsewhere, which includes job boards. And so I absolutely want you to upload your resume onto job boards in your field, like the AGU Career Center board. And you know what? One of my colleagues did that. She'd been looking for a job. She was found by a recruiter of a multinational company, a company in an industry that she would have never considered, she didn't even know existed. The company found her resume because they went to the AGU Career Center job board because they knew that was where the talent was. They went through her resume, they did a search, they found her resume, they saw she was an expert in X and Y, as well as some business skills and some language skills, and they invited her to apply for a job. And when somebody invites you to apply for a job, oh my goodness, do it. And she did. And she flew to 2 different interviews across the globe, and she got the job. And like I said, it was in an industry that she didn't even know existed, for a company that she would have never considered, and she loves it. She's making such amazing decisions every day, and she's also doing some really, really highly technical experiences and opportunities that she's just absolutely loving. Sorry about this vision. I don't know what's happening here, so I'm going to just stick with this for a moment. So I want you to post your resume on job boards and then look through the job boards themselves and look for opportunities where you can connect with decision makers or company representatives in advance. Because if I work for company X and my buddy Paul walks down the hallway and says, Alaina, Mary just handed me her resume. I know her for 10 years. She's fabulous at X and Y. Do you have any openings in X and Y? And I say, hey, Paul, dude, buddy, absolutely do. Let me take a look at Mary's resume first. That's what I'm going to look at first, because that solves my problem of hiring somebody easiest. And that way, Mary gets in first. And that's what we want to do for you. Okay. And then finally, step 11. We're not going to give up, right? The first step was don't freaking panic. Step 11 is don't freaking give up. Your job that you want, your dream job, your dream careers are out there. You may not know what they are yet. Just like I didn't realize what my dream job was in college. I have multiple careers right now, which I didn't even know existed. Many of them I created myself. So what you have to do is you have to constantly look for opportunities to solve problems. And if the job that you want doesn't seem to exist, even after your informational interviews, even after you've scoured the job boards, even after you've had conversations with decision makers, then you can absolutely be bold, be courageous, and say to a decision maker, you know what, it looks like you need to solve X. I know how to do that. Let's talk. Maybe I can assist you with that. And you know what? A colleague of mine, that's how she got a job at JPL. She was a mathematician who wanted to work in a particular area of JPL that was not hiring mathematicians. And she went to them and talked to them about the problems they were solving. And she said, you know what, I see you're not hiring mathematicians, but I can solve your problems in these ways and inject value in this new way for you that will advance your team. Why don't we talk about it? And as a result, she got a job out of it. So know that you can decide for yourself what it is that you want to do. You can create opportunities. And even if the job that you get right now, right this moment, after this webinar, is not the job that you desire, it's not the dream job, know that every experience that you have will prepare you for for the next even better opportunity. So you can pull lessons out of everything that you do. So I don't want you to think that, oh man, I have to work in this lab, or I have to do this, or I have to take a job, working for another type of company for a little while I'm searching for my dream job. Don't worry about that, because you'll gain amazing, more coveted skills from that experience that will make you an even better candidate down the road. So some resources, check out careers.agu.org, of course, the AGU Career Center. Also, I write a column for Physics Today, and I recently wrote a column at the beginning of this year called Land That First Job Now. So you can check that out on Physics Today. Just do a search for me. And then I am going to be sending you a free resume template, and then also some other tools such as the Skill Inventory Matrix as well. But I'm going to stick around. I know a few of you have questions, and I'm going to stick around and answer as many as I can in the next few minutes. And then if you have other questions, we can go ahead and I'll put them in the companion article, which will be on the AGU Career Center website in the next few weeks. And just as I said, this will also be this is being recorded, so you'll have a chance to review this too. But I want to thank, with all my heart, I want to thank AGU for their continued support of these career advancement and professional development opportunities for you and for your colleagues. If you like them, let AGU know. But AGU has been extremely supportive of this type of thing, and I know that they appreciate your feedback. So thank you, AGU, and I thank you, the audience, for this opportunity. I am truly excited about what's in store for you. So this concludes the webinar, but I am going to stick around, the formal part, but I'm going to stick around and answer. There's a whole bunch of questions that came in, so I'm going to actually answer them right now. So one question was, at what point should I start contacting potential employers about working for them? And the question, that's a great question. The answer to that is now. Right now is when you should be contacting them, right? We're not going to wait. So there's no reason to wait to network, right? So what you would do if you found a potential employer that you really wanted to work for is you would email them, ask for an informational interview, contact, of course, at that company, and ask for an informational interview. If you know that there is a job that you're applying for that is advertised, you can mention that in the email. You can say, and by the way, I am applying for this position, but I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you're working on, or I'd like to learn more about what skills would be best useful in this particular type of environment. I appreciate just 15 minutes of your time. So definitely reach out to potential employers now and be bold about it, because a lot of people are very shy and they don't want to, they don't want to send cold emails. They don't want to reach out. They just want to apply for job after job after job. And, I've met with people who've applied for 60, 70 jobs that they saw advertised only in the back of Science or Nature magazine, and they never got an interview. They never got a response. And part of that was because they had the same cover letter for every single job. And second of all, the reason is because they didn't contact the decision maker in advance to find out anything more that they could then use to customize the cover letter, or at least let the decision maker know, guess what, my stuff is on its way, my application materials are on its way, I'm very excited about working for you, and I want to learn more about what you're doing so that I can make sure I'm a good match. So it's a great question. So here's another question somebody had. I have been through the interview process several times, and have come in second to candidates with less experience, both teaching and research, than me. What more can I do to land the job? So that's another great question. How do you demonstrate to yourself that you, not to yourself, but how do you demonstrate to others when they are telling you, or it seems that you have less experience, how do you demonstrate to others that you do have the experience? And that goes back to that slide earlier where I was saying, if you know that you have a weakness, like for example, maybe teaching and research, what can you do right now? What can you do right now to enhance that, to address that issue? Can you take up a short-term research project, even if it's for no pay, even if it's totally pro bono? Can you, maybe at teaching, could you offer to help teach a summer class? Could you maybe shadow a professor and help him or her develop curriculum for a new class, or learn from their teaching methods so that you could learn that? Or do outreach programs so that you could learn how to do teaching with different types of audiences. So take advantage, look for opportunities where you can actually gain the training that you need to land the job. And the second answer to that question is, what more can I do to land a job? The second answer to that question is highlight the other pieces of value, the other parts of your brand, the other parts of your promise of value to the client, in other words, and to the potential decision maker. Highlight it to them what else you can do. Yes, I may not be as skilled in X, but first of all, I'm learning X right now, so I'll be able to jump in immediately to help you with X. But also, I've done a lot of work with Y, and I know from doing my research that you will have just received a grant from the Sloan Foundation that focuses on Y and Y+1 and outreach. And I really feel that this would be something where I would be able to really contribute value because of my experience. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. So highlighting the things that are unique about you, your brand, and your problem-solving abilities could potentially overcome any weaknesses that you have, in addition to dealing with those weaknesses right now so that you can gain the skills so that you will be a competitive candidate. Thank you so much for that question. Another question, similar to the first one, I'm going to graduate this December. When is the best time to find a job? The answer is, say it with me, folks, you know the answer. The answer is now. We're going to look for a job now. So we're going to start networking right now to start meeting with potential decision makers. And so since we're talking about December, since we're talking about 6 months from now, what you can do is you can set up a plan for yourself where, let's say, every week you email, you do research, and you find at least, let's say, 3 people that you want to send cold emails to set up informational interviews with. So the goal for each week is finding 3 people to send cold emails to. And if that's too much right now, then adjust your plan. Maybe it's 3 emails every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. Maybe it's 1 email a week, depending on your work schedule. Point is that we want to put together a schedule of actual tasks that we're going to do, watching ourselves as we accomplish those tasks, and then seeing what the responses and reactions and outputs and outcomes are of those tasks. Because one thing I didn't mention is one of the questions you should be asking anybody that you're interacting with these informational interviews is, who else should I be speaking to about this? And so when you interact, when you do these informational interviews, if you ask that, they'll say, oh, usually they'll offer at least one person. Oh, you should talk to my buddy Carl. Yes, Carl is the head of the U of A Department of Geosciences. He'd be happy to talk to you. Tell him that I referred you to him, and he will take the call. So definitely ask people who else you should be talking to, but start that job search now by looking for people that you can collaborate with in a win-win type of partnership, looking for long-term partnerships, long-term win-win relationships. Great question. Okay, another question. I've been through the interview process several times and have come in second to candidates with less experience. This was another question. I apologize. Let me pull down the thing. Okay, this is another great question. How to respond to the overqualification issue, such as having a physical science PhD seeking jobs in industry? Okay, great question, and I deal with this all the time with clients, right? I have a PhD, I have maybe even 10, 15, 20 years of experience of work, and I really like this company, but they won't hire me, or they don't want to engage me because they're concerned that if I come into the position that I will either leave quickly because it'll be too below me, or I will be frustrated and I'll be unproductive, in which case they'll have to fire me, or I'm just using it as a stepping stone to move to another position in the company or in the industry. So the way you respond to the overqualification is focusing in on specifically what value you can provide them right now and why. You have to be specific, why this is the right position for you right now as it relates to them. So in other words, it's not, in this case, you're talking to them about yourself, right? You're saying, I'm an expert in X, I'm an expert in Y, and I do have a PhD. But the reason why I'm so excited about the Levine Enterprises position is because I know that I would need to do, as you've advertised it and as we've talked about it, there is a great need for for somebody who has experience in Y, and that is where I come in. I have experience in Y. The other thing that you can bring is a new perspective. I have great perspective on the trends in this industry. That gives them information. Another value point that you can add is your vast network. When I hire you for a job, I'm not just hiring you and your brain. I'm hiring your brain and all the other brains that you're connected to through your vast networks. So you could emphasize all these networks that you have. This I think would also help to overcome the overqualification issue. I think with being considered overqualified, this is mostly an issue of re-editing your brand statements so that you emphasize what it is that you can do right now for that organization with the experience that you have, and why it is not an overqualification, why the overqualification is not even an issue. And knowing as much about the company, about the environment, about the economic environment and the economic trends associated with that company and that industry and even that geography will aid you in showing them that you having this PhD or you having these XX number of years experience versus somebody else is not going to be a deficit. It's actually going to help the company in a great way. Show them what you're going to do for them. Tell them straight out, this is how I'm going to help you. So it's a great question. Another person said, let me see, what was the other question? So another question would be, what kinds of questions should I ask or not ask a potential employer when contacting them about jobs and postdoc opportunities? So in general, I think we answered a lot of those, and I can give you some more questions. If you want to email me privately, I can send you some questions. Also, in my book, not to sell anything, but I wrote this book, Networking for Nerds, coming out this year at Wiley, and I actually go into a lot of detail about all the different questions that you can ask for an informational interview. But I did want to point out what you should not ask. So networking should be like dating. When you're dating, especially the first few dates, you never talk about things that are negative. You only talk about positive things, happy things. You stay on the sunny side. And the same thing goes with networking and with interacting with people through informational interviews and informal conversations. We're going to stay on the sunny side of networking. So we're not going to say, oh, I heard about that horrible layoff. Too bad you didn't get the axe. Or, you know, were you going to get the axe? No, we don't want to think about anything negative. It was more like, you know, I saw that you just issued this wonderful product. This is so great. I read in Inc. magazine that it's now the #1 in the market. Were you able to work on that? How did your expertise contribute to that? Or, you know, this is great news about you getting this particular grant. What are your plans with it? How do you investigate? How do you intend to incorporate the physics, the geosciences, and the cancer research that you talked about? So don't ask them about, what's the worst part of working here. Don't ask them about who are some people who would tell me why I shouldn't work here. Ask them questions about what skills I should use, what skills would be good to have, what's the best part of your job, what skills do you enjoy using most, what are some of the entry points that I could utilize to gain access to a career in your field. Just stay very positive as much as possible. The negative questions you can ask people later who are your friends, your trusted allies, alumni who maybe gone through that lab, and you don't even have to ask them in a negative way. You can ask them in a positive way. What would you say are the best qualities of this PI? And you'll be able to tell in the way they answer what are the best qualities, and maybe there are some other qualities that are not that great too. So we have a boatload more of other questions, and we're way past our time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to end the webinar here today, but I'm going to answer the questions in the companion article that's going to go along with this recording, all anonymized. So I'm not going to include your name or any detail about that could potentially identify you. I'm going to strip all that away, and I'm going to anonymize your question in the companion article so that everybody can share from the answers. But I want to thank AGU again for this wonderful opportunity. I want to thank you for sticking with me and for attending this workshop. These are always my pleasure and my privilege to be able to speak with you. And please stay in touch. Link in with me. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. Just don't stalk me. And I'll see you at AGU in the fall, and before that, at another AGU webinar coming up very soon. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Keep looking towards the stars. That job that you are excited about is right around the corner.